Welcome to Roar Stories. I'm Kimberly Stevens, and a lot of you know me as the Never Give Up Girl, and I was nicknamed that over time, but especially at my 60th birthday, and it kind of stuck. And that started a dream that I had to take stories of victories off of the pages of books and make them real and living and active in this Roar Gallery. And this is where everyday victories can plant seeds of hope for others because the human race is not meant to be run alone. And hope is a team sport. And so today we're adding another legacy of hope to our gallery. I'm very excited about this guest. Perhaps maybe I'm a little bit biased because I'm actually her mother. But I happen to think she's one of the most amazing, resilient, and wonderful human beings on the planet. And I'm very excited to introduce her. But before we do that, if you believe that hope should be shared, please subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and share it out to your friends who are still in the fight. And now I'm going to bring my beautiful daughter, Victoria Mitchell, to the stage. Welcome, Victoria. Thank you for being
Wonderful.
here.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here today.
Thank you. So, Victoria, before we get diving into part of your story, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you live, and give us a glimpse of your life right now.
Absolutely. So I currently am in Kansas City with my husband Patrick and our two dogs. We've got a Rottweiler Staffordshire Terrier mix, Satara, who's about 13, we have her trained to compete in nose work. And then we have a 5-year-old Husky Chihuahua mix. You would never know he's a Chihuahua looking at him. But so he's just basically a miniature Husky with some additional colors. But he is getting trained in agility and he'll compete coming up soon.
That's pretty awesome.
And
My
I
grand-
travel some for work. So I'm actually packing for Philadelphia right now.
wow. Wow. All right. Well, let's dive into your story. I know that we could be here all day if we talked about all of the victories that you've risen through. First of all, you are one of the most successful human beings in the world, if not the most successful human being in the world, who was ever born with citrullinemia, a rare urea cycle disorder. And you live up to your name, Victoria Faith. But you're not going to talk about citrullinemia today, are you?
I'm not going to talk about citrullinemia today. We're going to fast forward years later to after I had been growing for a while and was in my teenage years, actually in college and developed a hernia.
Yeah, but also we should probably give the context of why you had that hernia. Because your body was nearly cut in half for a liver transplant just before your 4th birthday.
Yes, and then I was doing a lot of growing and I was in many sports, one being gymnastics. So when you're already split in half and then gymnastics, you have to bend in half for fun. Well, I'm sure that did wonders. But when we got to the appointment, we would soon find that there was actually a lot more damage done from my growing that needed to be repaired than was originally anticipated. So I think it was supposed to be an hour and a half surgery, and I'm pretty sure it turned into like 6 hours, if I'm remembering correctly.
Actually, I know those details intimately, and it was supposed to be a 45-minute surgery, and it was 9 hours.
Oh, it was 9 hours. Well, there you have
And
it.
when you came out of that surgery, I asked the doctor how many stitches that he had put in, and his description was thousands. And not only was he exhausted from being on his feet for 9 hours when he thought he was going to be in surgery for 45 minutes, but he said when he got in there, so picture, a little teeny tiny 4-year-old, right, getting sewn back together. And after a transplant, they literally have to sew every layer back together. And so that was done just before your 4th birthday. And then as you grew, you pulled all those stitches out. And so
Just
when
to
they
be clear, I did not intentionally pull the stitches out. My lifestyle of being very active and partaking in a bunch of sports, walking my dogs, being a regular kid, pulled them out. So I do
actually
not have some superpower of knowing how to pull out stitches that were
growing,
internal and dissolved.
growing pulled them out. It was a natural consequence of growing and being healthy, which is a wonderful thing. But then when the doctor got in there, he literally said that he could not figure out how to even reattach the different layers. And he had to start over from the very first layer, and he hand sewed every layer back together.
Yeah,
And
so for those of you who don't know, that's called fascia tissue in the stomach. It's essentially your stomach lining and your muscles. And after going from a transplant at 3 and being nearly split in half to my normal growing cycle, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I was right around 20, going to be 21 that year. Um, I had no muscle tissue and fascia tissue anymore. So I developed a hernia, which turned into quite a big lump, at least the size of a golf ball on my left side.
yep. And then when they went in to repair it, you literally thought you were going to leave the hospital that afternoon and that it would be a quick recovery. And why don't you just give us a little glimpse of what you woke up to?
Sure. So I actually thought a lot of things about that surgery, none of which came to fruition, by the way. But again, we thought it was going to be 45 minutes. It was 9 hours. So, of course, we were thinking it's going to be in and out. I'm going to be able to eat later that day, and I'm going to go home, and, it's going to be like a quick, easy recovery. Instead, I also thought that they were going to suck out some of my stomach fat. They didn't do that either.
You have any
So
stomach?
they didn't do that either. But when they did go in and I woke up, it was like I was very confused because it was dark outside, and I went into surgery in the morning. And since it had turned into 9 hours, I think it was like 6 or 7 at night, like sometime really, really late. And I wasn't allowed to eat because of the medication I was on. So I missed a day of meals, and I ended up having to stay in the hospital I think I stayed there 3 days, which truthfully, I
You
probably should have stayed longer.
you did not stay 3 days. You were supposed to stay 3 days, but you made me take you home the very next day.
Well, to be fair, when you're in the hospital, they can check your blood pressure and they can poke you and they can prod you. I mean, I guess they also give you pain medicine, but at my house, they can't do any of that because they're not there. So when I was doped up on pain medicine, the nurse or the doctor or somebody asked me, "What's your pain like?" And at the time, I was on the pain medicine, so I was like, "Oh, it's like a 3." And that convinced them that that was enough to discharge me. So I get wheeled down to the car in a wheelchair, and we're going home. And mom is going over the normal bumps in the road, and I'm groaning in the back. And she's like, "Are you sure you're okay? Should we go back?" And I'm like, "No, it's fine. Just stop going over the bumps. It'll be fine."
Yep. So I think your biggest obstacle at that point in time was yourself and thinking that you weren't as you weren't in as much pain as you thought as you actually were. Also thinking that you could rush along the recovery from this surgery that you were not expecting to be 9 hours long, and you were expecting to take a couple weeks out of the gym and thinking you'd be right back, and you thought you'd go back to work in 2 days. And right, there were a lot of expectations that you had about the surgery that were not really accurate after 9 hours.
Yeah, that's very true. So when I got home and was a lot more impaired and weak and in pain than we had anticipated,
A lot of
my mom and I actually had to switch beds because at the time I had a loft bed
Mhm.
and I could not climb the ladder. I I mean, if we're being honest, I could barely roll over in my mom's bed, but so I was definitely not climbing a ladder. So my mom was gracious and she climbed the ladder into my bed for probably at least 2 weeks, and I got her bed for 2 weeks. And then I got to go back to work, but I did have to take it slow, kind of relearn what life was like at that point. I couldn't lift more than I think 2 pounds, so I definitely wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't picking up my little baby dog as much, but what I could do was walk, and we lived just off of the lakefront. Is about to my house to the lake and back was about 3 miles. So my dog and I walked a little bit further each day. I think the first day we probably only walked like a block, but then we were doing the 3 mile loop, and she came to think that the 3 mile loop was normal. And I'm pretty sure once I actually got back to normal and couldn't walk her the 3 mile loop anymore, she was a little bit disappointed. But I also was pretty determined to get off of the pain medication, right? Because medication always has side effects, which further limits what you can do. So it kind of was either keep taking the pain medicine and be down for the count, or kind of push through it a little bit. So I opted for pushing through it a little bit. Back when I thought my surgery was supposed to be fairly easy and quick, it was very logical to me to have a dentist appointment 3 days later. And I was like, okay, I don't want to reschedule my dentist appointment. I've got to get to my dentist appointment. So, which meant that I had to get off of the pain medicine. So I took the pain medicine after I got home for probably 2 days, maybe even a day. And then I took myself off of the pain medicine and went back to Tylenol probably. And on those walks, then a girl can only watch so much TV. So luckily I had some of my really good friends come over. Shout out to Patrina if you ever listen, and to Heather if you ever listen. You both came over. And that was wonderful. I thank you guys so much for that. Um, and yeah, I would just walk my dog whenever I could, just
So
walk her once a day.
So your obstacle was thinking that it was going to be a quick and easy surgery, when in reality it turned into something much more serious with a much longer recovery. And so you had to do a lot of things to adjust your attitude.
Yep.
And to cope. And one of the things that you did to try to help your new longer recovery be a little bit shorter was that you made sure you stayed active within the boundaries of what you could do with your new limitations.
I did, because having your abdomen split open, it's crazy how many things it connects to. Like, we all take for granted every day that getting up out of a chair requires your abs. Who would ever think that? I definitely didn't think that. So I struggled to get out of a chair. So I had to learn a new way of kind of like using my hands to get out of a chair to alleviate some of the pressure from my abdomen. But I would definitely try and move, and I adapted with my new way of getting out of the chair, and it became so habitual and second nature that I'm pretty sure I did it like 5 years later, and someone's like, why do you get out of the chair like that? And I was like, it's kind of just become a habit at this point, because I've had a couple abdominal surgeries, and my poor body had been split in half at least twice by being 20. So I learned a new way to get out of the chair.
So when it was all said and done and you finally got cleared by the doctors to go back to your regular activities, which I know that took a long time, did you mark or celebrate that victory in any way? I know you did, and I know what it was.
I did. So this was over the summer between my sophomore and junior year of college. So I actually missed some of the pre-start to school year activities. So my celebration was essentially moving back into my sorority house and reintegrating with all of my friends at school, walking to all of my classes. I did have to wear a brace for at least 6 months, which that was kind of obnoxious because I mean, for us women out there, if you've worn a one-piece bathing suit, that is essentially what I had to do, but for
But
like
this was
6 months straight.
compression wear, so
And
it
it
was
was
a
and it
little
was
more
compression based too, yes.
uncomfortable than a swimsuit. And I remember that we had a joke that as soon as you were cleared after 6 months, that you were going to burn those things. So I did find out when we were doing our pre-interview that you never burned them.
And I
But
don't remember the joke of burning them either, but that does sound like something I would say.
absolutely. So here's a question for you. And I know you've been through a lot in your life, and your name, Victoria, really has amazing meaning. When things get hard, is there something that you go back to? A truth, a reason, something that keeps you from quitting and helps you remain Victoria?
So what really keeps me from quitting is I've kind of always struggled to sit still. I don't like sitting still. I don't like doing nothing. I don't like sitting on my hands. I just don't like it. I like to help people, and by me not quitting, it's ultimately helping people, giving them encouragement. I actually recently went to a conference where one of the biggest takeaways was, your story is yours, is it's about you, but it's not for you. So it's for everybody you impact. And then the other quote there, shout out Brooke Hemingway for your line event, was being selfish is the most selfless thing that you can do. So by thinking about my self-care and what I needed at the time, and by taking that principle into today, I am able to fill up other people's metaphorical cups per se by just being there and encouraging and essentially helping them understand that, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible. You just have to go one
Yep.
step at a time,
Amen.
and you have to
And
do what you can do. You have
yep.
to just show up.
And that is exactly what we do. That's what you've done your entire life. That's what we do now with Extend the Rose. And Extend the Rose is sponsoring this Roar Gallery. And Extend the Rose is about being a champion for others. We happen to be championing kids and families in the hospital. So anybody listening today, if you want to know more about Extend the Rose, go to extendtherose.org. And you've heard me say at the beginning of this episode that hope is a team sport. And I just want to talk about something that's coming up in April where we all have a chance to join that team. And Extend the Rose is bringing Champ Month, which is Children in Hospitals Awareness Month. And we're asking the world to yellow out on April 24th. You can go to extendtherose.org // champ and pick up a Never Give Up bracelet and find out more about wearing yellow on April 24th. And if anybody wants to find more information about Extend the Rose, you can actually email us at roar@extendtherose.org. So after that little commercial about Extend the Rose, Victoria, I just want to say thank you again for being here. And I've always admired you because you truly have never given up, and you've endured more than any single, and I've witnessed it, any person that I've ever seen. And I admire you and respect you and love you. so very much. To everybody here who heard Victoria's story, if you heard any little nuggets in it, like this video and share it out to your friends and family. And Victoria, I just want to ask, do you have any words that you would like to leave us with, or anything that you would like to say to somebody who's still in the fight?
To everybody who is still in the fight, just take a moment, take a step back, and really evaluate where you were, where you are, and where you want to go. Because every action that you're doing in the present is going to get you where you want to go. So if you're currently in the present and you're dwelling on something, then that's going to affect how you're going to get to where you want to go, because you want to get to somewhere positive, be able to look back at the experience and see it as a blessing, and evaluate what lesson you learned from the experience, what you discovered about yourself.
I love that. And I know, and I'm seeing and I'm watching with amazing gratitude for your life. I'm watching you step into your story and realize that you have so much to share with others, and you are an inspiration. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing one of your many roar stories. And, I just want to say again to everyone else, if this story resonated with you, please share it out. Hope is the only thing that I can think of that actually grows when we give it away. So help us share hope in this Roar Gallery. And in this Roar Gallery, we don't just share victories, we claim victories. And then we share them with others so that they can claim their own victories in a similar way. Now, we have a tradition here. When we end Roar Stories, we end with a certain phrase, and I hope you all will take it to heart. So, Miss Victoria, on the count of 3, we're going to leave everyone with never give up. 1, 2, 3. Never give up.
Never give up.
Never give up. We love you. Bye, everybody. Never give up.
Thanks for tuning in.